never too late to get on the right track, even if you've done horrible things, even if you've really hurt people, even if people hate you. The best thing you can do right now is to be kinder to the world around you, kinder to yourself, be a better person, put more good into the world. It's the best thing you can do. I am William Mulligan, author of The Everyday Stoic, Simple Rules for a Good Life. I teach practical Stoicism to help you improve your life, improve your character, and become the best version of yourself. So if you're new here, welcome to the journey. And if you're old, welcome back. Today's episode is powered by Huel. Let's jump into the episode. French philosopher Pierre Hadot said, "Since the dawn of Greek thought, the sage has functioned as a living, concrete model." Aristotle testifies to this in his passage from his Patrepticus. What more accurate standard or measure of good things do we have than the sage? So contemplating the sage was a Stoic exercise in which we can live as better people. We have better direction in life. We know how to respond in certain situations. To first understand this, we need to understand what the sage is, what the Stoic sage is. But then there's also another aspect to this exercise that's not contemplating the sage, it's more contemplating the role model, which is a more common thing, a more common exercise that we can do. And it is an exercise that many great figures throughout history have done. I'll give some great examples, such as Francis Ngannou, James Stockdale. These people have contemplated idols and used them to get through extreme difficulty and to thrive in life. So the sage, according to the Stoics, is this, it's more of an imaginary figure, this person that lives their life perfectly to the Stoic ideals. They are a perfect embodiment of Stoicism. They live in accordance with nature. Their actions follow virtue. They do no wrong. So this is like this great role model. And the Stoics used Zeus as their sage. So they would look towards Zeus and ask themselves, as the Christians do, they say, what would Jesus do? The Stoics would say, what would Zeus do? So if they're in great difficulty and they don't know what to do in this challenge, they would say, what would Zeus do? How would Zeus react? What sort of characteristic would Zeus display here? And this can be your foundation to stand upon. When you don't know what to do, you can look towards how this sage would react. Another way you could do this is creating an idealized version of yourself where you are the sage and you follow Stoicism to a T. You live in accordance with nature. All your actions are virtuous. You're not a bad person. You're not greedy. You're not selfish. And when you're in difficulty, you think, what would this perfect version of me do? This sage version of myself? What would sage William do in this situation? And I've been doing this a lot. I've always done this. I think of this perfect version of me, this sage. And when I'm in difficulty, I think, what would it require for me to do right now to live in accordance with this sage version of William? And that's very helpful. It's very helpful, but it's, I think, way too idealized. So there is the other exercise that the Stoics did, and modern day athletes and war veterans, war heroes, there's an exercise that they've done, and that's more contemplating the model. So, as Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, he said, to have constantly in mind one of the ancients who lived virtuously. So Marcus Aurelius had this idea where you would think of, the Stoics like to think of Socrates, this great man, this great figure. Socrates was not a sage, but Socrates was a great figure. So when Marcus Aurelius was in difficulty, he would keep in mind, how would Socrates respond in this situation? And James Stockdale, the Navy veteran, the war hero, he was flying over Vietnam and he was shot down. And as he ejected from his plane, he said, and I quote, "5 years down there at least, I'm leaving the world of technology and entering the world of Epictetus." Now, James Stockdale was held prisoner in the Vietnam war camps for almost 8 years, and he was in solitary confinement for 5 years. He was tortured numerous times. He was very badly tortured. And he became almost a legend down there. He created a way of communicating with the other prisoners that wasn't noticeable, a way of keeping the camaraderie up, keeping the morale up, whilst he was held prisoner. And he was tortured that bad. One day, he, in front of the people that are torturing, he slit his own wrist to prove, basically saying, I'd rather die than give up this information. I'd rather die than betray my people, betray my character. He recently, it wasn't long, he discovered Epictetus, the Enchiridion. And someone said to him that Frederick the Great, the King of Prussia, would carry the Enchiridion when he would go on his journeys. He would carry on his campaigns a copy of the Enchiridion, and he would read it. He would think, what would Epictetus do? It would drive him through these campaigns. Now, Stockdale did the same thing. After recently discovering Epictetus, he would think, what would Epictetus do here? What does Epictetus teach of? The dichotomy of control, reason, the way we behave, the way we act, And he used this to get himself through this horrendous situation and also help people in this situation. He became a legend. He was a huge role model. And that when he slit his wrist to prove that, there's nothing they could do that would ever make him give up, they kind of stopped torturing at that point. So I was like, this guy isn't going to give up anything. So what he would do, he would contemplate this character of Epictetus, and he would remember the mantras that Epictetus had, and he would say, what would Epictetus do here? And that is what got him through this situation. He says that's what got him through this situation. And it was a guide at all times, because sometimes we can become so lost in such a bleak, difficult situation that it's hard to even find direction. And sometimes life's just confusing that it's hard to find direction. So if we have this role model to go off, then we can always go, what would they do? And for me personally, mine's always changing. But since starting this platform on YouTube, giving education, I've liked to think of Fred Rogers, Steve Irwin. They're two people that I always keep in mind. Fred Rogers, the care, the patience, the effort that he put into teaching his audience, the connection he had with his audience. And then Steve Irwin, his passion he had for his mission, it's unrivaled. And I like to think of those people. So I'm thinking, what would they do? How do they behave? And it kind of, before going into filming this episode, I think I need to have that passion. I need to have that connection with the audience, because I really want to help. I want to get this message across as much as possible. A quick word from our sponsor, Huel. I really like Huel. When I was writing my book, I was using Huel to power me through every single day. When I had my daily greens, when I had my meals, when I had my shakes, it stopped me from going to the shop, buying a load of rubbish, buying a load of unhealthy food, wasting loads of money. And these things do add up. Those quick journeys to the shop every day, the money adds up, the unhealthy foods add up, the wasted time adds up. So if I ever get those cravings, I grab a Huel and it fills my cravings. I feel good, it tastes delicious, it's quick and easy. And if you have any interest in the Huel products, then check the link in the description. Let's get back to the episode. So you contemplate this character, and then they give you direction in life. Francis Ngannou, the heavyweight UFC fighter, this legend, his journey is just incredible. His story, if you haven't heard it, you should check out his story. But anyway, he's in Cameroon. He's working in the sand mines, and all he has heard is stories of Mike Tyson. Hasn't seen him, hasn't seen video. He's just heard stories, word of mouth, about this ferocious fighter, this amazing boxer, some amazing thing to witness, to watch Mike Tyson fight. People spoke of him as legend, and Francis Ngannou used this word of mouth as his motivation. He's like, one day I want to be like Mike Tyson. I want to fight like Mike Tyson. I want to be the heavyweight champion. And, people thought he was dreaming. People laughed at him, especially in his situation. Well, he escaped his situation. He traveled through great difficulty. And when he was, in these horrendous situations on his journey to his beginning of his new life, he would go to internet cafes and he would watch videos of Mike Tyson fighting. And he said when he's seen Mike Tyson fighting, it was even greater than the stories. And anyway, he gets to Paris, he's homeless, and he goes into a UFC gym, an MMA gym, and not long after he becomes this heavyweight fighter, this legend, and then he's fighting with Mike Tyson in his ring, teaching him how to box. It's amazing. But he kept in mind this idea of Mike Tyson. What would Mike Tyson do? How can I be like Mike Tyson? And that's the thing. You can have the sage as your character, this ideal version of you, and it can direct you in life to be a better character. But you can also have the model of this person where you pick certain aspects of them. Maybe it's your father, maybe it's a teacher, your mother, your sister, a cashier, a bus driver, the positivity. I love the way that bus driver is so positive every morning. And you keep this in mind. There's at the British Museum, there is a ring. And in that ring is an image of Zeno of Citium, who is the founder of Stoicism. So it's believed that his followers, or just people that had heard of him, would keep this ring and they could look at this and go, what would Zeno do? You have the bracelets, the WWJD bracelets, what would Jesus do? And you can just look at it. So you can even keep a picture of someone you admire or the characteristics you admire and look at them. So something I did a long time ago is I had a piece of paper and I started to write down characteristics of people that I admired. And, I had like Muhammad Ali's courage, Steve Irwin's passion for education and helping others for his mission. I had Fred Rogers on there. I had quite a few people, just certain aspects of them, just that simple aspect. So I can look at it and go, that, and I want to be like that. And it gives you great direction in life when you're lost. You can just pull it out. Maybe it's on your phone as your wallpaper and you just look at it and you say, this is how I want to be. So Cicero said, Cicero was a philosopher. He wasn't really a Stoic, but people say that he embodied Stoicism nearly more than anyone throughout history. For after all, those are the people we are obliged to take our models from. Perfect wisdom. Of course, they have not attained, though we are entitled to select those who approach that ideal most closely. And Epictetus wrote in his Enchiridion, death, for instance, is nothing catastrophic, or else it would also have appeared so to Socrates. But the catastrophe lies in our own judgment about death. That death is a catastrophe. So this idea that Epictetus is saying is, he said, people scared of death, people so fearful of death. Look at Socrates. Socrates wasn't scared of death. Socrates is an admirable man. Why wasn't he scared of death? So we can look towards these figures to help us fix our daily problems. We can go, I can't do this, but this actor did that, this athlete did that, my friend did that, my mother got through this difficulty. It's not impossible then, my mother made it through. How did she do it? And then the other one from Cicero is an exercise that Marcus Aurelius did in his Meditations. Book 1 of the Meditations is dedicated to all the things that Marcus Aurelius gave thanks for and learned from his friends and family and his mentors. So he wrote down from my grandfather varies, decency and a mild temper. From my mother, piety, generosity, avoidance of wrongdoing, or even the thought of wrongdoing. And he had a long list from his mentors, Rusticus, and his father, his grandfather. And he created this big list, the whole of book 1. It was all the things he admired in these people. And he would probably, because it was his personal diary, look at this list. So if you were to end on an exercise, it is to create a model. It's 2 exercises. Create the model of the people you admire, the characteristics you admire, and, just like 3 simple ones. So for me, it was Muhammad Ali's courage, Steve Irwin's passion for teaching, Fred Rogers' care for education and helping others. And I just kept those in mind for a long time. And I kept them in mind. And they help guide me. And you can create this list and keep adding to the list, adding to the list, adding to the list. And when you decide, you get to a point where you're like, you know what? I'm finding it very easy to be as passionate as Steve Irwin. It's second nature to me now. You can remove that off your list and add something new to the list. So you're kind of always stepping up, getting to these levels, learning from these mentors. And then the second exercise is to just write down the 4 virtues: courage, temperance, wisdom, and justice. Because this is what the Stoics conceived good. This is what the Stoics considered good. And this is what is considered the actions and the way of the sage. So you have these 4 down and you think in great difficulty or on great journeys, whatever you're doing, decisions, big decisions, you look and you go, am I living in accordance with these 4 virtues? And these can be guidance. Of course, you're not the sage. You will fall out of line sometimes. You'll make mistakes, but these can always help you on the right track. And remember, if you go wrong, if you misstep, if you make mistakes, do not punish yourself and do not give up. Many people do this. When they do wrong and they be bad for a while, they decide that I'm bad, I'm wrong, and let's throw it all away, go down the wrong path. It's never too late to get on the right track, even if you've done horrible things, even if you've really hurt people, even if people hate you. The best thing you can do right now is to be kinder to the world around you, kinder to yourself, be a better person, put more good into the world. It's the best thing you can do. Feeling sorry for yourself and adding more bad does nothing. It doesn't help the people you've hurt, and punishing yourself, punishing them doesn't help them. Doing better, doing good is the right thing to do. So that is contemplating the sage. It's a Stoic exercise, and I hope this helped you today.